Freedom is very fragile. It's more fragile when we don't know the truth. You're about to be part of FramersView, where truth is the foundation of every day's program. Join us live every weekday right here on Rumble at 1 p.m. Eastern. Now, here's Neil Frame on FramersView.
Howdy. It's a Monday and welcome to the show. It's wow, did you have a good weekend? I played that little video of the dog laying in the water for a reason. It is so freaking hot here, and it is across the country, that it's insane. And this is just July. We haven't even got to the hot August yet, but we will. But we'll see what happens. So, hey, today is the day of then and now, and understanding where we are and how we've got to step up to the plate. Well, we're going to do that. We're going to step up to the plate in many ways and explain why the things that are happening. And I hope folks that are watching the show today look at it, even if you just happen to be a Democrat, and I hope you are, and I hope you vote for the right people on the Democrat Party. But I'm going to give you the reasons to understand why it makes sense to vote the right way to save this country. So is the DSA the new Democratic Party? I think that's a fair question. And we're going to find out if it is. It'll take a little time, but we'll figure it out. So we're going to cover that. And there's a lot of stuff. Trump tells her story to the Kamala effect, speaking in the South. Just classic what AOC does. Mark Warner, some of the stuff he got caught today, and a bunch of other stuff. I got to tell you, as this goes on every day, you just wonder, how can it keep going? Well, it'll keep going if we don't do the right thing, and that is to just make sure that we vote for the right person. Get involved. I don't want you to just vote Republican because Neil says you should. That isn't the answer. That isn't the answer at all. But the answer is that you want to be able to give information to your friends and yourself to make good decisions. So anyway, we'll cover that today. But first, I want to make a quick shout out to Rumble itself and Rumble Premium. A lot of people watch the show, and as we go with that show, here's the thing to understand. With Rumble Premium, you can eliminate all the, we'll call it the nonsense of watching other things that interrupt the show and make it hard to be able to watch the show. So here's the story, and pay attention to this because it does make a difference. So, sorry, had to get you've probably noticed Rumble isn't slowing down. There's more creators, which we obviously know, more content, and a platform that's actually putting users and free speech first. That's a big deal. I could talk about what YouTube was and is. And if you're watching here regularly, there's a way to upgrade your entire experience. Right now, Rumble is running a limited time summer sale on Rumble Premium. So here's the way it works. It's the lowest price they've ever offered. And when you have this continuation of the prices and the ad-free viewing across the platform, there'll be no pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you actually came for. Plus, you unlock exclusive content from top creators like Steven Crowder, Dr. Disrespect, special events, Bongino, and the FramersView, and a lot more to see. Anywhere else, here's the deal. Normally, Rumble Premium is $99 a year. You can pay it monthly, you can pay it annually. But during the summer sale, you can lock it in for $69 a year for life. Not just 1 year. Every year you stay subscribed. You keep the $69 rate, no promo code, no extra steps. Just go to rumble.com/premium, and the summer sale price is already applied. That's rumble.com/premium to lock the lowest price Rumble's ever offer. Ad-free, exclusive content, and a price that never goes back up. But You only get it if you grab it before the summer sale ends. So make your way to that Rumble Premium. Thank you, Rumble. Appreciate it. So here's the scoop, so to speak. And it is a scoop. AOC, one of my favorite things to show on right here on Framers View. You know, people say she's the dumbest person ever. I've said that, but you can be dumb and be educated at the same time. And in the case of right now with AOC, she's out there campaigning for some people that are, I will say, not really going to be safe for our country. And the things she says is amazing. But more importantly, and I think this is more importantly, she tells a story, not the story, but a story about the Trump speech and all the things that are going on with that. Watch this piece.
In President Trump's primetime address. Now, for those of you all who wisely tuned it out, Trump spent most of his speech rehashing the same big, old, tired lie about the 2020 election. The man cannot stand the truth, so he has to manufacture a fiction where he is popular. A fairy tale about America, where the majority of us fear our neighbors, where most of us think that this country is so much smaller than it actually is. But we have to remember that it is just that, fiction, fairy tales, a myth, a story, a lie.
Yeah, this is craziness. So, you know, she's talking about Trump's speech. All you have to do is go to Grok. You can see the information. I'm going to show you some things today that what he said about the 2020 election, we know is true. And the reason we know it's true is because the Democrats were talking about it when Trump was getting into office. And they were telling the truth then. Of course, there's a different story there. When the truth comes out from them at that time, they're doing it for a reason. And what is that reason, folks? You know what the reason is. The reason is that you jump into, I have to save this party, my election, somebody that I'm supporting, somebody that I'm endorsing, and they tell the story, the thing that they're worried about. That's really a big deal. So, you know, I watched the news this weekend, and, you know, the nonsense on the ABC, CBS, NBC Sunday morning shows, the nonsense that was going on with MS Now and CNN. It's not even that part. I'm not going to give these people credit. I don't want them to have more viewers than they normally do. Let's just leave it at that. But it's really shocking when you have people like Kamala Harris or a person like AOC that is so fake and phony, so amazingly fake and phony, that they're going to sound like where they are because they think that makes them part of something. And that's not the case, but that's what they do. But watch this. We'll talk about this, but I want you to understand. You might remember when Kamala Harris was out doing her campaigning, and she was in Louisiana, or I don't know. I'm not sure which state she was in, but she was talking with her accent, and she's from San Francisco. Okay. Her accent is stupid. Oh, no, wait a minute. It's San Francisco. It's not Southern, but she was Southern. Now you got AOC. Watch this and listen to what she's saying too. It's not just her accent.
We cannot afford to leave Tennessee behind. We cannot afford to leave Kentucky behind, Alabama behind, Mississippi behind, Georgia behind.
South Carolina behind.
We just can't do that. I got a buddy, Randy, that's down in Louisiana. He's got a business that I did some consulting with. And he had the biggest drawl you ever heard. And I will admit, there's a point where you just kind of want to talk like they do because it's just so calm and relaxed and easy to go. And, you don't worry about anything. And you have a little moonshine and you talk about stuff in the evening before you go back to work. And it's all good. That was Randy, or is Randy. But you don't do that on a campaign. You don't do that. I've done speeches around the country, and you talk who you are. You present who you are, the thoughts you have, the solutions you can offer, and the results that can happen. And you respect the people. They don't respect you more because you got some slang BS going on. That doesn't work. Just doesn't work. So here we are today in an interesting time where there's not really anything going on, so to speak, that has been anything other than political, trying to control what you say, what's said, when it's said, all those type of things. But watch this and think about what I'm saying here, because these are the Democrats back in 2019 when they were worried that who would become president of the United States in an election in 2020. And the truth comes out, accidentally, I guess. We can assume that, right? But watch this. I've got a couple of slides on this, but watch. This is stunning. Just watch.
The 2020 election, and whether or not, the answer is not, our voting machines are secure. I went yesterday with Jim to I guess it was the voting village, to get briefed. And I learned, not that you all don't know that at least a third of voting machines, especially the ones you push and that have no paper trail, are totally vulnerable. 1/3 in this country, 1/3.
So one way to make things better, for example, in the voting areas, to simply make these machines less susceptible to hacking. The other way is to help pass laws that will mandate these private companies to do the right thing. So the House of Representatives, on a bipartisan basis, has passed 2 bills to U.S. Senate. One is their H.R. 1 for the People Act, has a number of election security measures in there. And then we also passed the SAFE Act, focused just on election security. It does simple things like require a paper trail. Senator Mitch McConnell has refused to take those bills up for a vote. And my view is that Abraham Lincoln had it right when he said that public sentiment is everything. With it, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed.
So let's pause there. What Ted just said, translated in simple sentences, is the House has passed a couple of very strong bills, and they are languaging in the United States Senate.
Okay. First of all, she said languaging. It's languishing. Harmon. But they're talking about the very thing that Trump talked about in 2026 in his speech on Thursday night last week. All the trouble with elections and things that have been stolen and people that are being affected by that. And isn't that a problem? Well, watch this little 9-second piece.
What are the numbers of these bills, Ted?
One is H.R. 1. The other is called the SAFE Act.
The SAFE Act. Gee, wait a minute. 2019 SAFE. Voter ID. Oh, just 19. 7 years ago, that's what they were talking about. And now it's like, well, first of all, no blacks, and I've got information on this. No blacks can ever get legal ID to be able to vote. I mean, that's asking way too much, right? That's just That's just silliness to be expecting people to do something like that. Why do we continue with that? Why did we let them say those kind of things? Why do we let them continue with this nonsense and not ever really have a time where people recognize that they're being racist and they're trying to save their butts? But let's continue on that story about the voting and what's happening. And this is Lou, a senator, a congressman. I'm not sure. I think he's from California. Watch this.
We discovered this massive breach of security clearance forms from the federal government. Nearly 20 million of these documents were stolen from a foreign country. Public reporting is it was likely China. These are extremely sensitive forms known as SF-86 forms. I filled them out when I was in the military. They ask you everything under the sun, every bad thing you've ever done, every person you've ever met as a foreign person. It is a treasure trove of blackmail. And now there's 20 million of these records floating around.
Yeah, those records floating around. Between those records floating around, that did happen. And on top of that, not just that, but all the, 10, 15, 20 million people that came across the border in Biden's day, that the blue states are giving legal ID, real ID is what it's called on the driver's license, real ID driver's licenses so that they can vote, even though they're illegal. And let me explain something right here, because this is important. I've got a little bit of background in the software world. Not a little bit. Here's the thing. When you have a computer to be able to vote on, and that computer is hooked up to a little wire, because they don't do it generally with Wi-Fi for something like that, you are now on the internet unless there's a server sitting in a room that's not connected to anything else, but you're tying into their network, which didn't happen. So you got these election campaign machines sitting in the election booths across the country. Now, number one, if you don't think that there's not a back door to software that can be built in where people can go and type in some simple script code to be able to get in the background and turn something on, turn it off, or program in the background the old one for me and one for you and two for me, four for you could go on forever with that. I don't have any proof of that. And I'm saying that right up front. But there's states that had more people vote than had registered. How could that be? How could that possibly be? The answer is it could possibly be because they're playing with the machines. You might remember they had the cameras on in Michigan and in the election centers, and they stopped counting the vote at 12 o'clock, which they never do during a federal election. And they didn't turn off the cameras, and all of a sudden people were working on stuff and doing things, even though everybody was supposed to be going home. Little suspicious. Then they had the videos of people coming across the bridge from Pennsylvania or wherever they were coming from. I think it was from Pennsylvania into New York City. And they had baskets of votes that they dumped into the mail ballots box. I don't have any proof what people signed on it, but how can you cross states with boxes of votes to go into another state and pour it into an election box and not be suspicious? Do you understand what I'm saying? I hope you do. If you don't get this, you don't get anything, and you should keep listening and understand. It hurts my brain when people don't, at least be suspicious. but try to get the answer. I can't think of the lady's name. Doesn't matter. She got pardoned after being put in jail, prison, for trying to get the truth in the election here in Colorado. And she's now been released. But you know what she was doing? She was trying to confirm it was a legal vote, and there was suspicion on what happened. I think she was in Eagle County, which is kind of the Vail area. She spent time in prison for something that she was doing, which is now what is happening in Georgia, where the Department of Justice is requesting ballot records because there's suspicion there of what's happened. So, one of my favorite guys, Winkin, Blinken, and Secretary of State. This is, remember I said, past and the present. This is April of 2024 when CNN interviewed Anthony Blinken, Winkin, Blinken, and Nod. And she asked a question that was pretty simple, and listen to him stumble around. By the way, it's clear that he can only say 3 or 4 words without stopping and then starting again to talk. I've talked about that before in shows anyway. But watch this video. This is really, really interesting.
There have been reports of online Chinese accounts that have falsely mimicked Trump supporters. Do you believe that these accounts violate President Xi's commitment?
What I can tell you is this. President Biden was very clear about that with President Xi, and I repeated that today in my meetings.
You repeated what?
That any interference by China in our election is something that we're looking very carefully at and is totally unacceptable to us. Look, it's something we're tracking very carefully. I can't speak to these specific reports. I can say that as a...
I got to interrupt. He can't speak to these specific reports. That is evidence that you don't have, that you claim you've got. They do it all the time. Democrats do it all the time. That's why I bring the receipts. Watch this.
We've been very clear with China. Don't do it.
But they're not violating the commitment yet, as far as you can tell?
Well, again, I'd have to look at the specific reports that you're referring to, but we have seen, generally speaking, evidence of attempts to influence and arguably interfere, and we want to make sure that that's cut off as quickly as possible.
And the most important word in that whole thing, most important word, is don't. He said it twice. We told Xi, don't. And that's going to stop you. Don't. I mean, hell, I could say that to my dog and probably won't. Actually, she does listen. But he's talking about evidence that is the same thing and ties in directly to, I'm going to remind you of something. Do you think that the President of the United States, I'm looking to see if I've got any viewers at all, look at the President of the United States. Do you suppose he knows anything more than you and I do about what's going on in the country and in the world? Oh, the answer, by the way, just in case you are going, I don't know. Yeah, he does. And he sees evidence that nobody else sees. He sees things and hears things that other people don't get in front of them. And there's a reason for that, because I've always said, if you knew everything that's going on in the White House and in the country, you'd be running down the street with your hair on fire. You don't want to know. And while I worked in a campaign, with a campaign, I heard a lot of stuff you don't hear unless you're involved in that pretty deeply. And they'll tell you, it's scary. And the fact that they keep these secrets, even to the point that they do, is amazing, is truly amazing. But that's Blinken. That's our buddy. Anthony Blinken in 24, when he was saying those things, this just goes on and on and on with these guys. So yesterday, on what we call television, you might have heard of it. It's something different than the great Rumble FramersView. It's not TV. It's Rumble, and it's FramersView. On this week, ABC, Sunday morning, Rick Warner, I'm sorry, Mark Warner. I got a friend named Rick Warner. Mark Warner gets caught in his statements about legal ID in Virginia. And he kind of snaked through it and out of it. And George Carl didn't push back too hard on it. But watch this. This is why you really want to take some stock in what is saying right now. Watch him.
I understand that you and I think every other Democrat oppose this so-called Save America Act, and there's a lot of reasons that you've put forward. But let me ask you very narrowly on the issue of photo ID, requiring photo ID to register to vote. Is this something that Democrats should get behind?
We have
80-some% of Americans, 71% of Democrats say they favor this?
You know what? In Virginia, we have voter ID and photo ID. I got to show my...
That's actually not the case. I mean, I'm a Virginia voter. You don't need to show a photo ID in Virginia. There are a wide range of things you can show for ID. And if you don't show one of those, you can sign an affidavit saying...
sign an affidavit.
But so it's not required.
And those become ballots that if you want to contest later can be contested. But you do have a variety of documents. But we have voter ID of one form or another.
But should that be a national standard?
Shouldn't legal voting be a national standard? I mean, listen to that. And he said, "Well, you can contest the fact that the vote your vote doesn't count later. You mean like after the votes are over and the person has been announced the winner, and you can go back and say, I think my vote should have counted." Really? You snake? In fairness, ABC, okay, we'll give them one credit. It doesn't happen very often. But he said, no, that isn't true. You can do a vast number. So think about this. If you're in, because I grew up in Indiana, I'll use Indiana example. Indiana definitely is a red state. Well, to a degree. You got Indianapolis and you've got other cities that, anyway, there you can't get a driver's license without being a citizen. There, you, of course, can't get a social security number. Now, the argument would be in blue states, well, wait a minute. I got to have a social security number to pay my taxes. And some states go, yeah, we want that tax money. Here, fill out this form. But I'm illegal. They don't say that, but I'm illegal. They'll go, don't worry about that. Just vote for us, and you can get the social security number. And then they go on their way. So now, when it's time to go get a legal ID, you go in and you have your social security number. And you present that, you register, and now you can vote. But just because you did that, you're not legal. It really needs to be a birth certificate, because you can't get a birth certificate from the state if you're not born in a state. You know, I needed to find my birth certificate a few years ago. I couldn't find it, and I needed it for something. I don't remember what it was. I wanted to prove that I wasn't from Africa. And so what I did was I didn't do that. But anyway, I got a hold of Indiana and the county that I was born in, Allen County, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and said, I need my birth certificate. Okay, give us some information. Boom, 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 boom. Starts out, what's your birth date? What's your name? What is that your legal name? Blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, magically, about a week later, I get this envelope with my birth certificate. So if I wanted to register, I could go and do that. Now, we've been talking about that long enough that everybody, including blacks who Democrats think are too stupid to do it, I kind of have a problem with that point. But if you're not a racist, you would have a problem with that. If you are a racist, you would believe that blacks are just too stupid to get a legal ID, to get their birth certificate if they don't have it. And a real ID driver's license, that doesn't work in a blue state. My driver's license has a real ID emblem up in the top right. But guess what? That's because I registered to vote, and they know I'm registered to vote. And when I registered to vote, I proved I was a legal ID decades ago. But if you're in California, you go to get your driver's license and they give it to you. Yeah, okay, here, go. Do you have a social security number? No, we can get that for you too. It's just, you talk about going off the edge. That is a perfect example of going off the edge. So here we are today. We've talked about the ID part of it. We talked about all those things. But here's why it's important. The DSA, I mentioned at the top of the show, I said, is the DSA the Democratic Socialist Group of America? But they're not Americans. They're communists. Are they the Democrat Party now? Because we've had two steps to get here. The first one was the Squad, the AOCs, and all of the people of those. Some of those have been voted out by now. And you got the Jasmine Crockett, who now is going to be gone. All the crazies. AOC is holding her own because of where she is. She couldn't lose an election if she had to there, because nobody knows the truth except for what she says, whether it's true or not. But now we've talked about the voting, and is the DSA part of, or are they the Democrat Party? That's a powerful question. The fact that we even asked that question should concern everybody. But the fact that we're talking about it now is good, because we need to get people to understand what's going on. So I've got a couple of videos about the DSA and some of the things these people are saying. And what's scary, this first one is the head of the DSA. Their plan to basically radically change the government, which last time I checked, you would have to change the Constitution. You'd have to get this little baby, and you'd have to be able to rewrite this thing, and then you'd have to have 3/4 vote of the states and everything. So will they get the job done? No, but it doesn't matter. And here's why I say this. It doesn't matter, because what they're trying to do right now, and I've got some evidence of this a little bit later, all they want to do is win first, get power second, influence what happens in our country in any way they can third. And then if they accomplish all of that, they hope to change the government. So step one, or layer one, was the Squad and the crazies. And then we'll filter in the Tim Walz and all those crazy people. But now we got the head of the DSA, and him telling you that these crazy ideas aren't that radical. Watch this.
We just don't see the point of the Senate. Historically, it was meant to serve very wealthy people who owned a lot of land. And that's still a system that we have today.
So would you like to abolish the Senate?
That's part of our platform, and we don't think that's extreme. We think it's a change that would help make this country more democratic.
In addition to abolishing the Senate, DSA also wants to replace the president and the Supreme Court with those chosen by Congress. They want amnesty for all migrants, and they want to defund the War Department.
Think about this. Get rid of the Senate. Defund the War Department? Really? Imagine if we didn't have some kind of military and security operation in 1914, in the 1930s. Today, countries would run us over. Run us over. And I say that not with hyperbole, which of course is Joe Biden's favorite word. It's not hyperbole. This is about where we stand and how they to get rid of the Department of who's going to oversee that. We're going to defund that. Okay? That means no funds for the military. But we're going to take the police away, so that's good. And we're going to get rid of the Senate. That's good. And we're going to close the prisons. Now, is that going to happen? No, that's my opinion. It's not going to happen. But that doesn't matter, because as more people get in with these crazy ideas, I watched it in the world that I worked in for decades, and that was the automotive industry, both the manufacturers and the dealerships. And they kept thinking they got new ideas to do things that are radical, that's going to make the difference. You know what happens? From the time I was a kid to today, the selling process in a dealership is basically the same. You may not like it, and it's softened up a lot, but you need certain things you have to do. And everybody tries to come in and change it because they want to collect a bunch of money as a consultant. But the fact is, I went back into those places that they did that, took them back to where they were, and their sales go up because they treat people right. They work at a fair deal between the two of them. They write up the deal, and the people go home with a car or truck. And in the manufacturing side, I mentioned this the other day when we're talking about Harley Davidson, that they've just been downgraded to junk bonds by S&P. And that's because Harley Davidson, of all places, has become DEI. Harley? DEI? You know, even the guys that aren't rough and gruff DEI people aren't DEI type people at all. They want to ride their Harleys. They don't need to have DEI. And the guy that's running it, you know, there was a moment where we thought, boy, this is going to be good. This guy's going to do a good job. The board, DEI. The bonds, junk bonds. And have they learned a lesson? Probably not. Probably not. It's not going to happen. So you got the leader of the DSA that's talking about this nonsense and all their people, and eliminate, just eliminate everything, and we'll take care of it. Trust me. I mean, it's really what they're talking about. Just trust me. It'll all be okay. Well, watch Abdul El Sayed. Just the name should scare you. It's kind of like Barack Hussein Obama. That's not Bob Jones. Watch this.
Because we need that correcting right now. We live in the most unequal time in American history. It's easier to make a second $2 billion in this country than it is to make a fair living. Racism still denies too many people access to a good education, good health care, fair housing, clean air, drinkable water.
I started to write down all the nonsense and lies he was saying. First of all, the unfair for blacks and Asians are being hurt more than anybody with this DEI. You know, blacks are getting jobs that they've never gotten. You know, then all of a sudden and there's a few of them that are good, but all of a sudden in the DEI world, we've got women reffing NFL football that have never played football, that don't know the game. We've got people that are getting into college over other people that have better grades, better background, and everything because of their race. That in itself is racist. I think you know that. Well, I know you know that. So how do you make that right? Well, first of all, you take out DEI, because let's use Tim Scott as an example, senator from South Carolina. He's not stupid, not stupid at all. You know, there's other black people in politics, black people in universities, black people working and managing big companies. And then you see the other ones that get pushed into those jobs to what I call, and it's commonly known as, reaching a level of incompetency, where you get promoted, and you have no idea what you're doing. That happened in my industry in the automotive with manufacturing. You know, they've finally, General Motors has I think she's still there, female CEO, but she came up through the ranks. She's not stupid, and she's doing a good job. I applaud that. But when you get promoted over people that are more qualified, you start wondering, how are we getting here? And why are we getting here? Just put the best person in the job. It's pretty simple. It's what happens in most companies that don't live in this world of we can't hurt anybody's feelings. When you have to promote somebody to a general management position, high level, or a CEO or a CFO or a CIO, whatever those positions might be, do you think there's only one person that wants that job? Secondly, that might be qualified for that job. So what are the people at the top that have to make that decision going to do if they do it right? What are they doing now for us? Or if we're looking at them from the outside, from the inside, looking outside for somebody, what's their background? What's their success? What are their focuses on? What can they be? What are the possibilities? And you look inside with the people who are working for you and try to give them a chance. But are they as good as the one from the outside? And you make that decision. And you hire the person that you think will be the best. And it doesn't always work out. It just doesn't. But, as I've said before, DEI isn't going to solve the problem of fairness. Fairness has nothing to do with hiring and firing. Fairness has nothing to do with decisions about who you are. Fair doesn't matter. Fair is about treating a person right that works for you, is around you, that you're involved with. It's not about who gets hired. Fair is not an object. So Martha MacCallum, to continue on this DSA, Martha MacCallum on Fox News had this crazy guy that's from, I think he was from Nicaragua, Venezuela, someplace, Colombia, came to this country. But what he says about why he came and why others come here is so convoluted and upside down that it's hard to even describe. So watch this and watch Martha push back on this. This is great.
Your family came here from Peru, really in the middle of the heat of the Shining Path. They were Maoist, communist guerrillas in Peru. So why did your family come to America?
The economic situation in South America and in Peru was in a really bad place. But I think that much of what we could say is responsible for that actually was the imposition of capitalism, and American imperialism in many cases is actually what brings immigrants to the U.S. coming out of Latin America. And
so they come here because they don't like the imposition of American imperialism in the country that they're in?
Yes, in many countries.
So they come here.
In many countries, there have been undemocratic coups that have destabilized countries, and that's pushed people out.
Oh, well, you would think they would want to go somewhere that wasn't imposing that on them if that were the case.
Okay, so first of all, let's give him credit. Wonderful man bun. Wonderful man bun. I'm very proud of him. He got his man bun done by somebody before he came on screen. But the idea, okay, so everything's bad in Peru. Life is terrible. But they come here because America is imposing imperialism on Peru, which there weren't. And so they come to the United States where we're the imperialists. How we doing? Even she said, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, you kind of, when you're on a major network like that, you can't be quite as obnoxious as I am, because I'm good at being obnoxious. But think about this. When you actually say in front of a camera on one of the largest networks in the United States, if not the largest during that day period, that you say that people are leaving Peru and other countries that are oppressed, and you're leaving because of imperialism, but you're going to the imperialism's country and you're still there. Really? He wasn't prepared for that question. And he's not prepared for it because there's no way to have common sense with that. No way at all. So they're coming in, and we've got the DSA thing, and we're saying that we got to open the borders, and we got to, have government grocery stores, and we have to have government controlling and managing everything. And that's the way it's got to be. And I got a little bit of a long video here. It's about 1 minute and 40 seconds, but there's a reason I'm playing this, because these are people that came into the United States and explaining to you what it's like in those states, in those countries.
Mari, I'm going to start with you first. You left communism behind for a better life here in America, and now you are seeing the Democrat socialists starting to come into power. Are you worried?
Yeah, I am absolutely worried about the future of the United States. Socialism is sold very well on paper, and it's very nice when you just say things out loud. But in reality, when it's actually practiced, it's much different. It's much different reality. And I think in our content, you see that when we always try to compare what life was like in Cuba.
They're trying to make it attractive, right? The Democrat socialists are saying, no, watch this. I wanted to say this is a section of the DSA website called Speaking of Bills, You Don't Have Them Anymore. No debt, you don't need health insurance, your retirement is publicly funded. Wow, this sounds great. So, Yoel, what do you want to tell the people that might actually get drawn into that?
Hi, Bill. I want to say that people, that all that sweet work they put in paper is not really working in the real life. That's why people like me, like people like Cuban people coming to this country, we love this country because we believe in something like a freedom of speech, freedom of you feel something different. And 67 years, my country did not have nothing, only poor people, decay, everything is in bad issue, it's something crazy. When I hear these people propose for the American people, that idea, I said, please God, help America, help the American people, because I don't want this in this country.
Yeah, we don't want this in this country. But they're only from where the people have lived through the things that DSA is trying to create. And they say, well, but this is the democratic socialist. It's not socialism. It's like saying, I'm not really stupid. I'm just stupid. You're still stupid. Democratic socialist, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form. But part of this idea in the United States is our little buddy Mamdani, and him talking about how we're going to have groceries and we're going to have all these things that's going to be government controlled, but there's going to be a private operator that's going to answer to them. Watch this.
The city will subsidize a core set of staples. A private operator will run the store, but they answer to the standards that the city will set. These standards include requirements that at our stores, bread will be cheaper, eggs will be cheaper, grocery shopping will no longer be an unsolvable equation.
Well, this all sounds great. Who doesn't want to spend less on food? But Mari, what's it actually like to buy food in Cuba?
Oh my gosh, how do I even begin to describe it to the Americans? I can't, it's very hard. You know, in Cuba, there's scarcity of everything at all times. And not all grocery stores have the same products, and not all at one time. So you'll spend hours and days trying to find basic things. Finding bread is hard. Finding toilet paper is hard. Finding eggs. I remember, to give you guys just an example, it took us maybe 6 months to find butter one time.
Wow.
I mean, that is the reality of socialism and how it works in Cuba, and how, you know, it's easy for Mondani to say everything is going to be cheaper with taxpayer money.
Yeah, until you run out of the money, right? This is the deal that always happens. You know, it's great until you run out of money. And guess who isn't going to run out of money? The ones that are not going to run out of money. It's really simple. I can help you out with this. It's going to be the politicians that are in power. In power. That's pretty much what it is. As long as they have power, they're going to keep doing it, and they'll keep the money. And when you run out of groceries and you can't buy butter and you can't find eggs and you can't find anything, it doesn't matter what the price is if you can't buy it. Remember in 2020 when 21, 22, 23, as they just kept dragging out COVID and everybody was going to Costco and they couldn't buy toilet paper? First of all, we were totally overreacting until we actually ran out of it, and then we couldn't get it. And then what are we doing? We're looking for fig leaves. I won't get deeper into that. But this is why all of this craziness that they're doing doesn't make any sense. Why the people that are constantly pushing this over and over again, they do it for one reason. They think they're going to be the ones in power. And guess what? They're not going to be. They're not going to be the ones that are going to be in power. And the reason they're not is because they will push the envelope, and then the envelope is going to collapse. So think about that when we're talking about DSA. I want to take a real quick break here and talk about something that's important to a lot of people, and that is Rumble Wallet. Rumble Wallet is one of our sponsors. Of course, there's a reason for that because, well, Rumble Wallet is from Rumble. See, I explain these things and people finally understand it. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part that most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, man, you felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today, everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all the complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you've set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creator, like me, directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. Thank you, Rumble Wallet. It's a real deal. It's something you probably ought to consider. So, as I said before, we've got people claiming certain things that aren't true. Some people claiming lies that turn out to be truth. And I want to share with you, again, this is history, 2018 and 2024, which I know isn't 26, but you want to see this because this is why you can't trust these news outlets.
President Trump pushing a brand new conspiracy theory, one seemingly grounded more in suspicions and his desire for a counter-narrative than it is based on established facts.
Who do you have that your campaign was spied on?
All you have to do is look at the basics and you'll see it looks like a very serious event.
It's worth remembering that while we're sticking to the facts and telling you just what we know, President Trump apparently has no such constraints, since he simply makes stuff up. He frequently lies and has a long and well-documented career engaging in conspiracy theories about all manner of subjects with no concrete evidence ever provided. He's focused on propelling a counter-narrative to try to undermine the special counsel investigation. It's a fable in which he is the victim, and law enforcement officials are the bad guys.
Listen to this concerning new report accusing President Obama's CIA of curating the 2016 Russia collusion hoax by asking foreign intelligence agencies to illegally spy on the Trump campaign.
John Brennan had identified 26 Trump associates for the Five Eyes to target. A source confirmed that the IC had identified them as people to bump or make contact with or manipulate. They were targets of our own IC and law enforcement, targets for collection and misinformation.
Yeah. But Trump's lying. And Trump's in his fantasy and his fables and all the stuff that they want to claim. He was telling the truth. I'm doing a Joe Biden for you. What part of stupid can we get past on this? The very special counsel that was doing this investigation found that what Trump was saying was true. And Tapper finally, I showed a video a number of weeks or months ago of Tapper admitting, yeah, we got that wrong after you said it and got the election taken care of for Joe Biden. It's a miracle that Trump's in office. It's a miracle that he got through that. I can't imagine another human being that would put up with what he did, getting shot at, getting hit once, barely keeping from being dead, and keeps going and doesn't give up. This is one tough hombre. Very tough. So to pull all this together, and I've talked about the voting rights, the voter ID, DSA, what they're trying to do to eliminate everything and anything that would control anything. This is just free form, go for it. You want to talk about people buying weapons? As soon as you see it looks like they're going to get elected, the gun sales are going to go through the roof. Because they know that the first thing they got to do is take your gun away. So this is a video from my favorite stats guy at CNN. This is about the voter ID and who supports it. And this kind of destroys everything you've seen today with these people that were lying to you. Watch this.
Yeah. Okay, what's the racial breakdown on this, right? Because I think a lot of people make the argument that people of color, non-white Americans, have a harder time procuring a photo ID to vote. But even here, take a look here, favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it, 82% of Latino, 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
Well, I'm going to take this back just a little bit because I want to be able to, and I'm not going to do it. I don't have time. The numbers are staggering. And for the black folks that watch this show, and I appreciate you watching the show, I grew up in a very racist state. When I was a kid, the big racist state of Indiana, who started the Ku Klux Klan by Democrats, by the way, was disgusting. I grew up in a family that didn't support that. I grew up seeing white and black water fountains, white and black bathrooms. You sat in the back of the bus if you were black. That's the Dems. That was the Dems. That's still the Dems when they say they can't get a legal ID. They can't get it. It's impossible to get legal ID as a black person. Is that because they weren't born? Get a certificate. Every state you grow up in. And by the way, if you, let's say you were adopted and you don't know where your birth certificate is, or you don't even know where you were born, they can find it. There's a massive piece of information on that. Wow. That was a lot to put out there in just an hour. But I appreciate you guys hanging in there. We have big show tomorrow. I've got so much more, not lingering on this so much, and there's just too much to miss. 105 days until we get to Election Day. And we'll get there, and we've got to have you vote right. Not right necessarily, right correctly, vote correctly, but know what you're doing. If you believe in DSA and you believe in the wacko Democrats, okay, fine. There's going to be millions of those. But if you use your noggin and know that you'll get free stuff until there's no money left, and then they're going to own you, they already will own you, you probably won't vote for them. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. And until tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, rock on.
Thanks for your support. Join the FramersView Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for your support. Join the FramersView Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern.